too far away from each other.
It's gonna be weird.
Fuck it, we'll leave it right here. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, you can go closer then. Yeah. There you go. All right, here goes special for IGTV.
So
I
no
look
fix
so
November.
much shorter than you.
I can
Slouch,
shave some. I can
slouch.
shave some posture.
Don't. At least I look wide, so that's okay. But you need to slouch. There you go. Yeah.
So no fix November. We're right
No
in the
fix
thick of
November,
it.
yeah.
We are almost halfway through, except it's a long month. So
Yeah.
damn it.
It's
So
really
extra-
10 days into it, so third. And I'm on it for about over 6 weeks, I think.
Today's
I should really start monitoring what I do. You know, like taking pictures and dates and shit like that. I'm so
Today's
bad
the 12th, so I've been on it for 13 days.
Right, you
And
did
so,
it the day before.
yeah, so when I got a real jump on it. But so we did just want to check in a little bit and talk about kind of how it's been going.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about the. Sorry. Hello. Sorry, my daughter as usual. She's discreet as an elephant right now. Yeah. So we can talk. Do we start with us or do we start with what we've seen so
Let's start with us first.
Okay, us first. So what surprised me the most? Let's start like that. So the idea was to get all the fixes out of the way and see the one that was really the biggest one. So I took the carbs out at first. So by the way, my carbs was 2 slices of bread for my avocado toast. And so from there I switched to avocado mashed with feta cheese. It's awesome, by the way, try that. So it didn't really make that big of a difference. But if you look, I've been lowering my carbs for a year straight, so I don't think it created that big of a difference.
Yeah, you didn't have like that sudden drop off that I suppose a lot of people
And
do.
I had quit completely sugar. I quit sugar like probably like 6 months ago now. And I had only one stuff in Belgium when we tried, like what was that, 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
And since then I had like absolutely none. So I had basically no sugar for 6 months outside of that one time in Belgium where we had chocolate and made me feel like so bad. So that was interesting because I remember like stopping for months or two coffee completely 2-3 times in my life. But when I did that, I upped the other fixes, which was either carbs or sugar.
Yeah.
So I never drank that much. I'm really not a drinker. I've never done drugs. So my thing were carbs and sugar and caffeine. So I take everything out. And so I start with the carb, nothing happens. And then I switch to decaf during the day. But what I had is I had my one coffee with caffeine, my double espresso with caffeine every morning, right? And my biggest surprise has been when I took that out. Oh, man. Oh, shit. I had not fathomed the difference it would make for me overall. It's insane. I remember the first week was hard for me because I felt like I realized that I was getting the energy. It was setting up my day a specific way. It's hard to explain. It was really putting me in a specific mindset and triggering a specific behavior. But you have to understand, like my first ritual of the day was coffee, which means I would come down, turn it on, and the first thing I would do was coffee. And he set my day, he set the behavior for my day right off the bat. And I didn't realize that until I took that first coffee out. And then suddenly it's 10 o'clock and I'm like, or even like 2 hours later, like 9 o'clock, where I'm like, I don't know how to act, if that makes sense, because it's not the same person almost. So I was like, what do I do with that guy? Like there's a guest in the house and you're kind of awkward and I don't really know how to deal with him.
And he's kind of fucking bored and he doesn't really know, you know what I mean?
And so, but me, it was like, so the first 5 days I felt tired. Mm-hmm. But then I realized very fast he wasn't exactly tired because on day 6, suddenly I'm sitting there and I spent 20 minutes just like I talked on the podcast, just not doing anything, just being there, almost like a strong meditative state, I would say. Not doing meditation, just sitting there doing nothing. So it was very weird. And I noticed it was the same kind of feeling. So I wasn't bored before. I was looking for, to react to something. I was looking for stimulus that usually the coffee was giving me. And so suddenly I realized that coffee was allowing me to not look for stimulus. What do I mean by that? It was changing my behavior into I don't have to do anything instead of I need to do something to create the stimulus, so I need to basically start my day.
Yeah.
Learn, like read, do shit.
Yeah.
And so that's where I realized that my biggest fix actually was caffeine. That, and then since I'm on the No Fix November now, like within 6 weeks, but like right now, what I realize is I gain like an hour and a half of sleep.
That's exactly where I'm at with it. Not 1 to 2 hours of extra sleep every night. Came right in time for daylight savings time too, because it was all of a sudden it is, and where we're at. So here it's basically dark until like 8 a.m.
And it's dark at 5 now.
Yeah, and
we live on the North Pole.
And where we live in Vienna, because of the hills around where we are, it's dark at 4:30, 4:15, 4:30 p.m. So it is like, so now with this, the no caffeine thing is definitely, I had no idea how much extra sleep I needed.
Yeah,
because I was just
But by the way, you were down
through my
to
day.
1 coffee a day, one double espresso
I would
in
say
the morning.
I averaged 1.25 coffees a day, 1.25 coffees a day. Maybe twice a week I would have.
Yeah, I average like a double espresso.
Yeah.
A day in the morning at 7.
Yeah.
And taking that out has impacted my sleeping so much. By the way, we talked to a number of people who had exactly the same reaction. People are like, oh, I'm so tired without coffee. It's like, no, you're tired. You're just not feeling it. Yeah, exactly. That's been the biggest surprise for me, how much 1 coffee can make a difference.
Yeah. For me, from a behavior standpoint, there is the boredom. Because for me, just like you, coffee was kind of it was a ritual for me in the morning.
It still
I'd
is
get
for
up
me
and
because
go
I
do
do
the
decaf.
thing. And so I still do the ritual with my decaf coffee that I picked up at the regular grocery store.
Distilled
Not
caffeine
fucking
in it,
good either. It's fucking
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
So if there is caffeine in it, I make up for it by having very little of it because it's gross.
Yeah.
But it's not good. But anyway, so I handle the ritual, and it's a way I enjoy still to get my fat in. Coffee flavor, all my cream. But the carbs thing for me, I wasn't having carbs when I trained, and I wasn't having carbs day to day. But I still had a cheat meal,
right?
At least once a week, or at least a cheat afternoon, evening on Sundays or something, and having that just not as an option. You're like, this is the one thing that gave me hope.
Right, so is it physically or mentally? Then?
Oh, it's all mentally.
It's all mental.
And it's the same thing with having booze. Is like, I probably drank more often than I should, but I usually found ways to mitigate the damage. So it wasn't like drinking all day every day or getting weird. But it's like I found ways to have my fun and make it work. And now it's like I realized how much socially, like, because most of what they do in Austria is they just get in big tents.
And
drink beer
and get wasted.
Put on
and
traditional
put booze
clothes
in beer.
and drink beer.
And put booze in beer.
So now it's funny. We'll sit there and we're a little out of the city, so there's not a ton to do. And on like a regular average weeknight, it wouldn't be a big deal for the wife and I to go, well, let's go up and have a couple drinks at this spot, sit down and chat. And now it's like, we got to go up there and just chat. I don't want to walk all the way up there for to have water.
Right.
Which is silly. But it is. It's been very interesting for me trying to kind of plan how to not be bored, because so much of what I did involved, coming home from the gym. If I go train early in the morning, these days that I would have a second espresso, I would stop by at home. I'd be like, if I'm gonna do something, like stop and have coffee and do some work.
Yep.
And so just to get out of the house, there would be either coffee or
some
booze
kind
involved.
of exactly.
If anything,
so a stimulant involved.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
So you needed a stimulant to get out of the house.
Yeah.
The idea of a stimulant to get out of the house. Isn't that funny though?
It's crazy.
Because that's, if you look, like something for the people doing it right now, it's always that. What gets you out of the house is the idea of a stimulant.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're finding with a lot of this, though, is like the amount of people
behavior.
who are like, my job sucks. All day long, I got to do this shit, and without coffee, I fucking...
Exactly.
And it's like, well, we got to talk about the real problem here.
Exactly, right. So what we saw so far is that stimulants are the way you are using to deal with shit you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what we've been saying. But a lot of people that we see, what they're saying is like, well, now first of all, sleep is better, so that alone should tell you need to stay off.
We had someone in the nutrition group, 2 to 3 hours more, went from 5 hours of sleep a night religiously to 8.
Okay, there's a guy writing on this right now. There's plenty of studies on this right now. The difference physiologically, neurologically, psychologically, and everything between the two is massive.
Yeah.
That alone should tell you should not use stimulants. And by the way, so what else did we see? We had a few people, one especially, who was like, I can introduce a little bit of it. I'm fine.
It's not a fix, we'll just have a little bit.
Just a little bit. I'm fine. I'm a grown up. I know the difference. Guess what happened? Within 3 days, back to jar of peanut butter, feeling like shit.
Coffee led to peanut butter. Led to a few days
So how did he start? He started with caffeine.
Yeah.
Started with a stimulant. Oh, I don't have decaf. Let me just get caffeine. And then right from there, back to peanut butter, carbs, other stimulant, and from there back to relationship with food, feeling like shit, hating yourself, everything went downhill in 3 days. That's the thing. All of you are like, yeah, now I get it, I'll be stronger. That ties up to the podcast that you might not have seen yet on the heart. But the point is, there's a relationship between your sense of self and the heart. Like we did a podcast on that. You might be strong enough to control how much coffee you'll have mentally. That's true. But there is no amount of willpower that allows you to control your heart, what coffee does to the heart. So coffee will do whatever it does to the heart, and that will lead to the brain every single time, and it bypasses your conscious mechanisms. So you cannot stop the effects of caffeine on your heart and therefore eventually on your behavior, because the part that links the heart to the brain is the part of the sense of self and the social brain. So that means that over time, stimulants through the heart will change your behavior. And I think that's why we see people to get out of the heart, they need to get excited. They need the idea of a stimulant. Yeah. If it's not for a stimulant, whatever they're supposed to do is not exciting enough. Right, but I think it's not exciting enough because you're thinking stimulants. Yeah. If you take the stimulants away, whatever chatting with your wife while walking becomes exciting. The problem is it's not physiologically, not mentally, but physiologically, it's not added as much of a stimulant as the booze. Yeah. So therefore, booze is stronger than chatting with my wife. That's not true. If you just stay like that, eventually just chatting with her will be enough. It's just right now, it cannot compare to the physical stimulation of booze.
Yeah.
Yes, eventually it will be.
Eventually. Whew. How long are we talking?
She's watching. Be nice. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Because I've seen me on my learning rate, it's absurd. I go to the coffee shop and I work on heavy shit for 2-3 hours. You know what happens? First thing I realize when I'm not in the mood, I start yawning. But I think it's because it's calming me down. Because I realize something is that I'm far more maybe not hyper is the right term, but that I thought I was. So yesterday I did a try. I had 10, 15 Brazilian nuts. So very low in carbs, but still, right? And then I realized my heart rate was up. So I go do my active meditation. We'll talk about this. It's coming, don't worry. And then I go on elliptical machine at 4. So nothing crazy, 4 out of 20 or whatever. And I can't get my heart rate under 120, which I'm supposed to. So it's very, very hard. I went on the bicycle level 1 or 2, couldn't get my heart rate under 100. Any stimulants get me like this. Maybe that has to do with autism, maybe not. I don't know yet. But I can tell you that I have such a high energy level that any stimulant actually, like just a little bit of carbs was enough to put me almost over the top. Anything past that just crashes me down.
That's what's interesting.
Because it causes a freeze.
Is before like your caffeine use and carb use was basically pulling your productivity, if you will, up. You know what I mean? It was pulling
but not really.
That's what I'm saying. But like it was getting you through.
Exactly.
But your ability to actually output that on your own is then less and less and less and less and less.
Yeah, because
which means then when you remove this is much like then what I felt was it's like now when I remove it, it's like normally I'd get up in the morning, have coffee, and I would sit right down and I can just work.
Yeah.
Just. Mm-hmm. All right, which is never the way that I normally work.
Yeah.
And so, but and so now I get up in the morning. It's like, fuck. Okay. How am I supposed
that's because
to?
That's because you just started. Exactly. But and now that I'm 6 weeks in, my output of work is higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because what I realized it was a artificial output that wasn't very efficient anyway. I wasn't working well. And because I was always pushing and always having stimulants, I was actually at a lower energy level daily, except I couldn't realize it because the stimulants were kind of hiding that fact from me because I'd done it for so long.
Yeah, it still is kind of an anchor dragging you down the whole time.
It is, right. But it's even that, I think it's blinders. So it's an anchor, but also blinders. You never realize how tired you are. So the outcome of work the output of work is actually not good at all. So what I discovered after 6 weeks, sleep went up and I hit that stride about like 2-3 weeks in, where now the work input started to go up again, and now it's higher than it was before, and at a much higher efficiency and quality, much, much, much higher.
So I think like for those that have stopped, I mean, I guess I don't know how to put this the best way, but like if you want to know how under recovered you are,
truly
stop with the caffeine
and the carbs and the sugar.
And then
but that's the key. That's the key. Remember, if you have other stuff, so you say, I stop the sugar, the caffeine, and the booze, fine, but you have carbs, it's still going to act as a stimulant.
Yeah.
Because it triggers the sympathetic nervous system.
And I think, like if you're going to, I don't know how to put this the best way. Yeah, like, so if you're going to, though, like transition to that, where it's like, okay, now all of a sudden there's all this stuff, you're not going to feel good no matter what in the beginning.
Well, that's by the way, that also brings a very important part. Sometimes you don't feel good because your behavior is not what you would like it to be. If I make that more obvious, you're going to feel worse, not better. Mm-hmm. But that's going to tie up to the serotonin podcast we're going to do today.
And like you talk about with learning rate, is at some point now it gets more intense, and then now you do have to figure it out.
That is true.
Yeah.
Like everything will get more intense for you. But that's the entire point. But the intensity is necessary for learning.
Yeah.
That's the emotional balance. But so what if you need to learn that your life is shit, that you don't like it, that you don't like, that when I say you don't like yourself, I don't mean self-esteem issue. I mean you are not doing the things you would like to be doing, you should like to be, you're not learning enough about your craft, all those things where your body is like, hey dude. Right, so now it's going to talk to you louder.
Yeah.
Right. You might not want or be ready to necessarily hear that louder. There's a lot of people before they change their life, they know they just can't deal with it. Right. So imagine that voice louder. Those are the problems we saw. Is the people that don't want to face themselves, basically.
What can one expect to experience in the second half of this month?
Right. So
how do things go once you go from where I'm at now, where it's like, all right, things are clearing up a little bit. My energy levels are picking back up from day to day. I'm getting lots of extra sleep.
Right.
I'm able to be a little bit sharper during the day. I'm still tired, but like things are shaping up. I'm able to do my work. I'm able to train well. Training output is going up.
Yeah.
And
so what you're going to see is your C game going up.
Okay.
Your baseline energy is going to climb and climb and climb as you move forward because it's not being destroyed by the stimulants.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I saw. It's not my A game that is so much higher, it's my C game. I have so much more energy, but my baseline is so much more energetic. So I feel almost hyper all day. Mm-hmm. Like I want to do stuff. So I train like a maniac. I come back and I do stuff and I do stuff and I do stuff and I do stuff. And suddenly you just do shit. The stuff you go like, I should be doing this, or like give you anxiety because you should be studying it or doing it, and you don't really
don't actually take that much time or that much work.
And so I realized on the conversation lately on the StrongFit community, like suddenly I'm like, someone asks a question, I'm like, fuck, I need the exact definition. Before I'd be like, oh fuck it, I don't. No, I'm like, all right. So I go to a coffee shop for an hour. I'm like, let me study this. But like the actual stuff and everything, and to go into those deep corners and those dark corners, those rabbit holes with like all the neuroscience, sometimes, man, they get to interesting places. But suddenly I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And even the stuff I don't want to do, like the stuff with, like you have to memorize names and, the frontal medial node of da. And suddenly I'm doing it. It's almost like academic work. And God knows I'm not capable of doing that because I fucking hate the thing. But suddenly, for an hour or two, I'm like, fuck it up.
Yeah.
Just fuck it, suck it up, do it. And so I do shit. But the key is even the shit I don't necessarily, that I want to do, but can't do, if that makes sense. There was always a number of things that I wanted to do. I just could not get myself to do. Now I can.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference.
Do you think that like kind of past that 2-week mark is about, I think past 2 weeks, you should start to feel a little better sense of how things are, don't you think?
Totally. I think you should have even better, clearer,
because
I
yelled at a bus driver on the third day.
Right. So let's talk about that too.
I've
noticed I'm less either capable or willing. It's probably the same thing.
Yeah.
To let things go.
Yeah.
So what surprised me the most on week 6 is overall behavior feels like a different person. Like I act differently in specific situation where I need to learn. Because the first 3 weeks I got caught up in situations where I acted differently than I was expecting on pretty big stuff. And I was like, ooh, what was that? Like it completely blindsided me.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing stuff I should not have done. Because at that moment I was like, what? And after the fact, I'm like, but I don't act like that. But I guess I do.
Yeah.
Which is before, like I realized how much I had numbed myself on a number of things.
Yeah.
And now that the numbing is away, well, now you have to face it. So it's a two-edged sword in that sense, right? So, but I would think now your C-level game 2 weeks in is going to start going up. And you're going to have more energy to do the shit again throughout the day that you want to do but don't want to do.
Yeah.
But that's very important because then your behavior should be up to you, not reactive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should not be a slave to your environment. And I feel that the No Fix November like gave me really the capacity to do what I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
That and the sleep, fuck. Like
if you knew that you needed an extra 2 hours of sleep every fucking day because what you were getting was not sufficient and you can't get it.
You can't. That's the most maddening thing is how do you tell someone to sleep 2 more hours?
Yeah.
You can't.
So
it's shitty sleep anyway.
Yeah.
Right. This one I just wake up at 7:30. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you want to hear what other people are experiencing with this, so this is just kind of us sharing our thing and what we expect. We have a ton of people over the StrongFit community on Facebook that are sharing their stories. You can kind of ask questions how people are handling this and that.
And someone is asking if at the end of the month we're going to get all the people talking about this stuff. if we're gonna do like a survey and pull all the results and everything. I think that's a good idea. We'll do that.
Yeah.
And then once we have it, we'll release it.
Yeah.
We'll say, okay, this is what we saw. I think it's a great social experiment.
Yeah.
And what I would like to know is do another survey by the end of January and see who stuck with it.
Yeah.
And the one who didn't, how do you feel about yourself? No, and it's not to be mean, but it's like at least you get to make an informed decision, an adult choice as to, look, this is behavior without the stimulants. So this is you, and this is you on stimulants. Which version of you do you prefer? And based on that, we can talk. But I know that I'm not going back to stimulants. Like this is the version of me I want to be.
You've got 2 really nice coffee machines that just be running decaf through.
Yeah, a $1,500 espresso machine that runs decaf.
I could bring one back home with me. We don't.
No. Speaking of which, the Swiss water decaf.
Yes.
Osmosis stuff. I know it's hipster as fuck, but it's actually better and has less caffeine than the decaf. I had my normal decaf, and I can tell you there's caffeine in it because I was like this right away. I was like, oh, I feel a difference. That Swiss water stuff tastes better and has 99% of the caffeine is gone. It's actually better. It's higher quality. It's better for you. There's less chemicals. So buy the Swiss water osmosis decaf bullshit.
We'll put a link right here.
And code for 15% off. And
I don't know how to do things. But
yes, that's going to be the sticker. Is figure it out. Yeah.
So, well, sounds good. Podcast coming up tomorrow. So stay tuned. Subscribe on YouTube. And best of luck with November.
Yep.